Oh, it's recording? That was like the most cliche way to start a video, but it was a genuine question. So, you've read the title. You clicked on the video. And you're here to find out why did I leave the number 8 university in the world for this one that most people have not even heard of. Yet, in brackets. Haha. And I'm making this video because a lot of people, even within Minerva, asked me this, and a lot of them, even within Minerva, would tell me that I made a bad decision. And I get it. A couple years back, I probably would have thought the same way, and whenever I try to explain it, I don't feel like I'm able to do full justice to the story. So today, I'm going to tell you, in perhaps too much detail, but detail that I think is necessary, why it was actually the single best decision I've ever made, and I want to help out someone who's struggling with a similar decision. And if that, it is too hot to be wearing a hoodie in Singapore, I'm taking this off. Okay, we good? I don't know how I feel about this shirt. Oh, whatever. Cup noodle cup. Okay, I think we're good. I don't really know how cameras work. I just hope I don't screw up somehow. Oh my god, life is so hard. Wait, that made it worse. So, I think it would help if you knew a bit about my school life and background. I am born and raised in Singapore, and Singapore is kind of notorious for its extremely great, focused, and rigorous education system. I went to pretty much like top schools my whole life. I was in a type of environment where people went for like extra tuition and like actually set aside large amounts of time and effort to study since they were like 8 years old. I did pretty well in school throughout. Oh wait, I have a ring light, I should set that up. I don't know if that made it better. Anyway, so some people will say that the Singapore education system is one of the best in the world. I don't know how I feel about that. For my A-levels and for my prelims, which are like your final high school exams and like the mock exams right before the high school exams, I got 87.5 out of 90, which is like all A's and 1 B, and that effectively put me in the top like, I don't know, no one publishes things about this. Basically, it was pretty good. Extracurricular-wise, I think my record was good, but not stellar. I was never like the president of any club, although I always tried to be. And I had like a lot of interests and a lot of things I wanted to do, and in the end, I felt like I accumulated like member status of like a bajillion like extracurriculars. And it's also like, coming from such a great focus system like Singapore, extracurriculars are kind of seen very bluntly a waste of time. Kids just aren't as highly encouraged to like do things or to like get certifications for their skills. Also, it's like literally in the Singapore education system, you can only join one club at a time, and once you're in a club, you can't leave until you graduate. And if you DM me, I don't mind sharing what I wrote for the Minerva accomplishments, although to be honest, I don't entirely recommend it because I think that you should just write whatever you want, because like it's a personal thing, and there is literally no right way to write. There's literally no right way to write it. I can't take myself seriously wearing this shirt, I'm sorry. Chapter 2. The University Application Journey. Okay, we got the high school graduation tea for getting into character purposes. My dream school, from the time I was like 15, was Yale NUS. A collaboration between, as the name would imply, Yale and NUS. It would be the first liberal arts, like the first dedicated liberal arts college in Asia. My older cousin went there and it looked like the best thing ever. I was so sure I wanted to go there. I printed out the school logo, like a picture of the school logo, and I hung it next to my desk as study motivation. And then 2 months before my A-levels, the school, without any like real warning, announced that they wouldn't be taking in any new cohorts effective immediately. I remember that the news came out in the morning on a school day. The news spread instantly among class group chats, and it was like the moment it came out, everybody knew. I remember I met up with 2 of my closest friends. We've been friends, we were friends from secondary school, which is the equivalent of middle school, and we were in the same high school. And we met outside one of their classrooms, and we just sat on the floor, and one of them, who also dreamed of going to Yale and US, started crying, and I just sat there, and I just felt like I didn't know what to do. If you're not from Singapore or another country with a similar, very stressful, grade-focused education system, I don't know how I can explain to you how massive the A-levels feels. But it was like I was there 2 months before what at the time was what felt like what the past 12 years of my life have been leading up to, the A-levels. And suddenly I had no idea what I was planning to do with said A-levels. I had a starting point in that I already knew that a US-style education was for me. TLDR, the US has a greater focus on extracurriculars, trying things hand-on, learning from a wide variety of fields. Singapore, being a British colony who kind of adopted their very academic-focused system, was a lot more bookish, encouraging you to specialize as soon as possible. But Yale and US was like the only school in like the entire continent that offered anything like that, so the search wasn't looking very good. So with like what felt like not much of an option left, with 3 months until US application deadlines, I did the only thing I thought I could do, which is apply to the US. The kind of thing that you're supposed to have been planning for like years in advance, I was not going to do with 3 months of notice. Woo! I talked to my parents about it. You know, the first thing they said was that they didn't think it made sense time or money-wise to send me to a school that was ranked lower than NUS, because in their mind, like, you know, university is for getting a degree, and a degree is for getting jobs, and if you have a more prestigious degree, you get better jobs, therefore you should try and go to the most prestigious university you can, you know. Okay, so basically I did my A-levels, and then did like most if not all of the work of actually researching and applying, because, you know, I was like, I have to finish my A-levels. The A-levels should consume all of my time and brain power. That just makes sense. I remember that my last paper was on November 25th, and US college deadlines are between January 1st and 4th, so that was extremely rough. Now, oh, I found a diary entry that's from 25th December, and the title is, "Merry Christmas, I'm having a crisis about college applications at 1 a.m. I also found one from the 27th of December where the first line was, "I don't know where to apply and the deadline is in 3 days." I also have like a very strong core memory of sitting at my dining table on 31st of December working on my Harvard application that was due the next day, and then when 12 a.m. came around, I stood up for 1 minute to listen to the fireworks, not watch the fireworks because they were blocked by buildings or whatever, and then I heard all the cheering stuff and I was like, cool, Happy New Year, and then I promptly sat back down and kept typing. Yeah, I also found what was apparently the last photo I took of the year, which was this. Not sure if I recommend this. So it's like also the only photo in my gallery reel from like January 1st. Woo! It was an extremely hectic, chaotic period. I wasn't even sure where I wanted to apply because I did all of my research so late. In the end, I applied to U Chicago, which I thought at the time was my dream school, and I was really excited. Like, I thought the essay I wrote for them was really cool. Applied to Columbia, Harvard, Stanford, Princeton, Yale, UCLA, and UC Berkeley. Yeah, you can see that I was aiming pretty high, but it also felt like the only place it made sense to aim. And of course, NUS. It's like, I feel like NUS abroad has this impression that it's like really cutthroat and like destructive to get in. So it was maybe like a month or two after like the college application really intense shebang that I first heard about Minerva. It was like a close friend mentioned it to me as, it's a cool school that my senior is at where you travel to different countries and it sounds really cool. And I was like, oh, that sounds cool, maybe I should apply. And then I was like, I'm absolutely exhausted and very burnt out from college applications, and I just didn't have it in me to look at it anymore. I fast forward to College Decisions Day, which was April 1st, Singapore time. Very funny joke, Ivy Leagues. At that point, I had already gotten rejected from all the other 4 schools I applied to, and I was like, okay, I have to get into one of these 4, right? And as you can probably presume, I did not. And I was really stunned for a while, and I didn't know what to feel, and then I cried. And it's, surprisingly, I'm kind of surprised I made this realization so fast, titled, I got rejected from all the Ivies, but I honestly think it was a good thing. The excerpt from that I'll read to you is, today I got rejected from all 4 Ivy League universities I applied to. But then I watched Avatar. and specifically Appa's lost days, the part where Zuko almost undergoes character redemption but decides nah, and disregards all of Uncle Iroh's life advice. And suddenly, I feel like what happened is okay. Because Iroh told Zuko about choosing the life he wants and not the life people want for him. And I realized I didn't want to go to the Ivy League anyway. Whoa. Moving swiftly forward on to Chapter 3, the NUS era. So, after getting rejected from all of the US schools I applied to, I went to NUS. To be honest, I was not like super hyped because, you know, in my mind I kept my sights set elsewhere. But you know, NUS was still, I was still excited because NUS was still a really good school. Overall, I was not like over the moon, but I was hyped, you know? Being so unprepared for NUS did have some ramifications on my NUS life. Like, for example, the residential program that eventually everyone told me that I probably would have liked a lot. Their application closed before I even finished getting rejected by US schools. So I had no chance to apply there. At the end of my first semester though, on paper, I was definitely having a pretty solid NUS life. I was in Raffles Hall. Which one is it? It's in Raffles Hall. Oh, two-headed eagles and lions and stuff. Wait, two-headed phoenixes, yes. And if you don't know, halls are like dorm programs, and they're kind of like American sororities in the sense that they're kind of cultish, and they have really long histories, and they're really, really intensive extracurriculars. Halls do this thing where, like, in order to earn your stay for the next year, you have to, like, earn points through your extracurriculars. I was in, like, 7 different clubs, which is not even that rare. And, like, I did have friends. Like, I didn't click extremely well in Hall, but I did have friends in Hall. A lot of my friends from high school went to NUS too, so I had a bunch of friends there. I was making friends in my, like, philosophy, political science modules realm. And academically, not to brag, but I was really breezing through. I wrote somewhere in a diary entry that the hardest part was trying to care about what I was learning. Dang. I got A's and B's, and like, I lived and breathed school. I only went home on weekends, and even then I'd usually have hall activities like in the morning or something and then go home. But something felt missing. The thing that really bothered me was the academics. So when I was in NUS, I was in the second batch of this program called CHS. It's where like half of the cohort in, like half of like the entire cohort in NUS is. There are literally like thousands of students per CHS cohort. And I could go on a whole very, very long rant about the CHS program. You don't want to get me started, but in summary, most of the students are kind of just there to get the degree and yeet. Which, like, is fine, like, get that job and get that bad girl, slay. But it just didn't provide the kind of learning environment that I was looking for, and it became some situation where, like, most class discussions were kind of just, like, people just said things for the sake of saying things, and it felt completely pointless. The second thing is that the program, at least when I did it, to be fair, it was a second year running, was objectively poorly designed. For example, we had a module on the scientific method, and we spent 2 weeks just on how to check if a source was reliable or if it was fake news. That was 2 weeks on something that everybody already knew! And, like, you would think that for, like, a module that sounds so concept-driven, that there wouldn't be a lot of memorization, but the exams were purely memorization, and all of them were of like the most minute details. Like, for example, whether or not corals are one of the methods used to determine temperatures from 200 years ago. Another thing that I was really like, why, is that you don't get your exam or test papers back. So you just study for an exam and you get a grade, and like you don't even know where you went wrong or how to improve for the future. The reason for that is because, like, you know, like the cohort is gigantic. It's physically impossible to give everybody feedback. So, like, the exams are focused on assessment, not on growth. Learning, overall, just felt like a commodified good that the teachers had to package in the most efficient way humanly possible. This was often through online lessons and automated tests. For most of these, like, the compulsory modules, nobody even met the professor in charge. You would literally never meet them. They'd just be like a person on your screen. They might as well have been a YouTuber from America. Overall, it felt incredibly depersonalized and honestly isolating. Because the other thing is that, like, this is pretty common in, like, any school, like, any university, but it's like, when you're meeting, like, 100 people every day from, like, your faculty, your hall, your club, you don't really get to know anyone very in depth. And it's like, you make, like, 2,000 acquaintances and, like, one friend if you're lucky. That's how it feels. In my cohort, all of us really hated CHS, like, CHS bitching would occur at every single lunch conversation, and it was like my secret card for, like, if I ran out of things to talk about with somebody, or if I needed to, like, get a conversation with this person going really fast, I'd just be like, hey, so CHS sucks, right? And anyway, I digress. If you want more CHST, just open NUS Reddit, there's lots. Overall, I just felt like the tiniest cog in a gigantic machine. I genuinely felt like if I just, like, evaporated and disappeared one day, that nothing would change and nobody would notice. Which kind of did. You know, like, even now, 2 years later, I have, like, friends from NUS, like, finding out now that I've left NUS. Objectively, the material was useful, and, like, the modules, like, on paper made sense. It was not like you physically couldn't learn. It's just that it was way too easy to get by about doing so. So it's like, remember when I said I was good at studying? It's more like I'm really good at putting in the least amount of effort possible to get the maximum result, like to cheat the system. So the system was too easy to cheat, and I just kind of, like, would go into class and, like, understand the learning goals for that day, and then for anything else I would just zone out and do my own thing so that I could make productive use of my time. I have a diary entry from then that's called My Attitude Towards Acads Right Now. I think I've become so good at being efficient that I struggle to really enjoy the process of learning. I don't even know if I find fulfillment in learning what I'm learning. Nothing feels new. I'm bored. Actually, maybe that's why I've learned to overcome my boredom by striving for efficiency. Since I can't strive to learn, I strive to do everything faster, because then at least I get some fun out of it. And another diary entry I have from then, which I read out in a viral video, is called School Sucks. Everything feels like it's for a grade. I don't feel like I'm learning anything, not anything useful at least. I've written in almost every module's feedback forum that I feel like I'm learning new terms but no new concepts. I'm already over halfway through the semester and I feel like there just isn't a point anymore. I don't see what I'm putting all this work in for. This isn't what university was supposed to feel like. This isn't what I worked my ass off in junior college for. I know I'm meant for so much more. In the realm of hall and extracurricular life, which took up way more of my time than academics, here is an excerpt from a diary entry called Hall Blues. I recently realized a lot of my friends are getting leadership positions here, and I have none. It's not even that I didn't try. I ran for so many. I ran for like 3, insert name of club, head positions. I applied for, insert club, head, and they didn't even get back to me. I don't even want to talk about Club C in a position I was really sure I would get at this point, but honestly, I just feel like I'm always at the peripheral. I'm always floating around the cusp, but never in the center of the action. Maybe I'm just in the wrong place. So it's not like I was like depressed and crying every day and miserable. It just felt like something was wrong. And I was like, well, if I have the power to change things, I should try and do that.
2 weeks later.
Okay. Why is it so short? It's been a whole ass like 1.5 weeks or something. I've been editing. Look, it's so meta. You can literally see the part of the video you just watched. Okay. Why is it so short? It's been a whole ass like 1.5 weeks or something. I've been editing and the lighting looks shit. Like, I hope I figure it out. It's my first time using it and I probably shouldn't have experimented with this camera on like a 20-minute video. I really hope I can get through chapter 4 before the camera dies. So, chapter 4, Seeking Change. My first thought was obviously to try applying to the States again, but I decided not to because, first of all, I felt like nothing had significantly changed about me, so if they had rejected me a year before, there wasn't a good reason that they would accept me this time. 2, I just felt like it'd be a really big waste of time and money. 3, if NUS is a top school, why should I expect top US schools to be significantly different? It was kind of here that I realized that my problem wasn't exactly with NUS, but with like traditional university in general. Because like most of the problems that I just complained about with NUS, you probably also get at a traditional university. So my second option was to figure out how to make the best of my remaining 3 years in NUS. I had a full plan ready. which involved auditioning for bands or other CCAs I knew I enjoyed more, leaving hall, overloading of mods I really enjoyed, and doing my min-max things only for one remaining year of compulsory stupid CHS mods. And honestly, I was kind of looking forward to this to the point that when Minerva accepted me, I had to really sit down and think if I was willing to forsake that. But then, I remembered Minerva existed. And I thought it might be different enough to warrant my consideration. So, Minerva was different. Very different. And in case you're not familiar with Minerva, I'll give you a TLDR, which I apparently decided to just wing on the spot. Thanks, past script writing me. This is too stressful because the thing's gonna literally die at any moment. I think like most people, the thing that prompted me to really look into and consider Minerva was the whole like traveling around the world while studying thing. That's like the most like marketable part about Minerva. But then the more I looked into it, the more I was like, oh, this is freaking cool. So Minerva is also like, the school is also built around the science of learning. So the school doesn't believe in lectures, they don't believe in exams, they believe in like continual assessment, and they believe in active learning. Like you have to be super engaged in class. And Minerva is an American school, so they also do like the broad-based curriculum, like liberal arts thing, where like you don't specialize immediately. You have to like take a bunch of like core courses that teach you like the foundations of the universe or something before you can specialize in anything. Something that I didn't know about Minerva before I went in was how like insanely diverse the community is. So my cohort, for example, we have like about 200 people, and we have like 52 or 54 different countries represented in the batch. I was so shocked. I genuinely thought that I would be going to school with like a bunch of white Americans. I think the packaging of Minerva is like this really novel, innovative. A lot of people on the internet will tell you that Minerva is a scam. I do not blame them, and if you thought Minerva was a scam, which is probably the reason you're watching this video, I don't blame you either. I also thought that it was a scam. Even once I got past the part of, is this a scam, I still had reservations about Minerva, and these reservations were, one, I know that academics in Singapore aren't as rigorous as elsewhere in the world, so will the skill be challenging enough for me? Spoiler alert, it was significantly more challenging. NUS similarly advertised a broad-based curriculum, and I was extremely disappointed, and I basically have no credible evidence that Minerva won't be the same. 3. This school offers no extracurriculars, and I'm starting to think that that's one of the most valuable things that you can get out of university. And 4. What if it's actually a scam, lol? 5. What if I once again learn nothing, on top of now getting a degree that nobody recognizes? That would be worse, right?
20 minutes later.
Okay, and we are back. Yeah, I'm a bit sick. I feel like always happens on YouTube. The YouTuber's like, by the way, I'm sick. Sorry if I sound a bit weird, but it sounds the same as they always do. But yeah, sorry, I'm a bit sick, so sorry if I sound a bit weird. As you can probably assume, I did apply in the end. And what made me apply was just like, you know, the pretty cliche, well, you miss all the shots you don't take. And the other part was, to be honest, this application seems kind of fun, which is what I also tell people when I tell them that you should just apply, because honestly the application is cool. So part of the Minerva application is listing down and explaining the 7 things in the past like 5 years or something that you were most proud of doing. And filling in that section did seriously make me think about my direction in life, and prompted me to finally start the advocacy project with my friend that I've been thinking about for a really long time. I also did something not so smart and decided to work on this application in the middle of my NUS midterms. This became one of the most stressful periods of my life. I remember it was 3 days to the deadline, and I broke down literally crying because I realized that there was no way I was gonna make it. And I emailed the admissions team basically begging for an extension, which I did not think at all that they were going to give, and instead they were like, yeah, sure, have an extra week. And I was like, holy shit! You know, if they didn't give me that extension, maybe I'd still be in NUS. But even up to the very day that I submitted the application, I was having second thoughts. Yet another diary entry I have here. Now, I'm much less sure I would go if I actually got in. Honestly, I struggled to convince myself to continue working on this. I know I'm being short-sighted, but I guess in the last week, maybe because I was really involved with a certain club, and it's the first CCA club I felt really at home in, I started having a lot more ambitions for next year. And I think I'm pretty settled with philosophy, political science, and film as my majors and minors. So really, right now, I'm actually pretty comfortable in NUS, and that existential crisis, which gave me the energy to work on my application, is kind of dissipating. Also, I was really sure I wouldn't get in. I mean, the acceptance rate is ridiculously low, and if all the other schools I apply to, which had acceptance rates higher than Minerva, rejected me, why wouldn't Minerva accept me? Wait. Why would Minerva accept me? They also did not think that I was the caliber of students that they were looking for, because like they had examples prepared of like how to write accomplishments, and then they were like, I won an Olympiad, I represented my country at a choir contest, and then I was like, I like to draw, and I was like, why am I spending so much time on this? Long story short, as you can probably tell, I was accepted. Chapter 5, the application outcome story, which is really just a story. You can just skip this part. This is just me yapping because I like telling the story. Okay, so the camera died. This is my SU shirt. It's an NUS shirt actually. And SU is like, when you start NUS, you have like a limited number. Makes it such that class no longer counts towards your GPA. Basically means that you can literally get like a C and you don't have to give a shit. It's kind of a meme because it basically means that you're giving up on that module. And this was the shirt that I wore to my final NUS exam because like I already knew at that point that I was going to SU and US entirely. So next I heard from Minerva. They wanted to interview me and I was like, whoa, that must mean something. The problem was that the interview was supposed to be in the week of my finals and I was like literally dying because I had like 7 things due on the exact same Friday. So I asked if I could do the interview the next Monday, and at first I said no because the admissions results were scheduled to be released on Saturday. But I was like, I seriously cannot do this, I'll actually combust into flames, and they said sure. So the Friday of like 7 things due, came and went. And with all of my stuff submitted, the only thing to do was to sit and wait for the weekend to pass until the interview on Monday. And that was a very, very tense weekend. My parents and I would just be talking and it would be like, so if you go to San Francisco, we have these concerns. And it always come down to like, well, there's no point having this conversation because it's only if I get in. And they'd be like, yeah, true. But like, you know, if, and then I'd be like, yeah, but like if, and then we keep going and then we'll be like, oh, but we don't even know if I'm in. The time eventually came for the interview. I put on my favorite t-shirt for moral support. Wait, let me go get the t-shirt. I only found out very recently that this small brand that does like LGBTQ plus things from San Francisco. So like maybe I manifested it with the power of my shirt. That makes a lot of sense. So I was like sitting in my room like before the interview. I didn't have anything else to do, so I was just sitting there and panicking and like, oh yeah, preparing answers to standard interview questions. I drank tea to calm myself down, pacing up and down my living room, and I got into that Zoom call a couple of minutes early and I just stared at the screen, looking at the clock ticking by, wondering when she was gonna show up, and then she came. So the interviewer was like, her name is Miss Fato. She was like, hi, nice to see you, you're Michaelia, right? And I was like, yes. And she was like, yeah, how are you feeling? And I was like, oh, to be honest, I'm like really stressed. And she was like, oh, why are you stressed? And I was like, because of this. And she was like, oh, didn't you see the email? And at that moment she said that, I knew. I was accepted and the letter had arrived in my inbox the previous Saturday like they said it would. But I refused to believe it. So I was still mentally preparing for a rejection letter. So I went to my emails and I searched Minerva, and then there was, lo and behold, an unread email. And my mom was like, Michaelia, and I was like, So when I opened it, the first thing that happened was that they were playing a fancy video. And then I was like, if they're playing me a video, it obviously means that I got in. They're not gonna play me a video and then reject me. But then, I still didn't know because it wasn't like a yes or no answer, right? So I just watched the video being like, what does this mean? So the video transitioned to this stupidly long and indirect letter. Like, it was like a really long, like, it's just a long like wall of text. So my mom and I reread it like 2 times to be sure. Like I skipped to the end of the message and then it was like, it said something like something excited to see you in San Francisco, and I was like, so that means yes, right? Like that means yes? And I was like, couldn't you just give me a yes or no answer? But like basically yes. Basically yes, I had been accepted. And here I have a picture of today of all of our political science exams or something. Or was it our philosophy exam? And then they gave me a bunch of treats to congratulate me on getting into Minerva. So I feel like this is probably where you would expect the video to end, because it's like, oh, you got in, so that's it, right? And it's like, I think what I realized from this experience is that real life is a lot more complicated and there's still a lot more things to consider after that. So even though I got in, my parents and I, you know, we still weren't sure if it was a good idea. And I was also like, I'm not sure if it's a good idea for me to... At this point, I still had like 2 or 3 exams left to do. And by the way, it feels really weird to be studying for an exam when you don't even know if you'll still be in that school. But I did wear this shirt to, like, those exams.
2 hours later.
Wow. Where even was I? Oh yeah, I was halfway through the aftermath and then my camera died. Halfway through chapter 6, the aftermath. I'm back with like the bajillionth outfit change of this video. I'm wearing this Magikarp shirt because the Magikarps represent evolution, growth, and transcendence. I'm just kidding. It's cause I'm hoping I can twin this shirt with my cousin later. I talk way too much. Giving myself way too much work for editing. I apologize, future me. Yeah, it's okay. So we did go and pay like a whole ass enrollment deposit, but we were still prepared that I might not go. And I was still scared that I would go through the whole thing and still feel like I learned nothing, but this time just wasted a lot more time and money. Ultimately, this is the line that my brain came up with that sold me on it. And it was, if this school sends me to like 6 to 7 different countries and I learn nothing, that is my own fault. I think that if you are struggling with a similar choice, I would highly recommend checking out this video called something hard choices. I don't remember. Anyway, it was like one of my reading for Minerva. The class was complex systems and the unit was about identity and purpose and how to find your purpose. Yeah, cool class, honestly. I really wish I had seen this video when I was making this decision. Like, my favorite line from it is something like, if you're choosing between, for example, to be a philosopher and to be a lawyer, do you want to be the person that chose to be a philosopher, or do you want to be the person that chose to be a lawyer? Anyway, so off I went. On this point, I also want to mention that preparing to go is a whole nother thing. Like, visa applications, the mental thing of like realizing you'll be leaving home and like grappling with all that, getting all the health checkups. Like, I feel like a whole farewell party and all my friends were like, oh my god, you're leaving! And I was like, guys, I'm gonna be back in like 3 months. It's not that big of a deal. 3 months is the amount of time that now we're in university, I might not have seen you even if we were in the same country. But truly, Minerva has really been like the best thing that's ever happened to me. It changed my life, and that's, yeah, it changed my life. And I'll just talk about that in a different video because I already know that this is gonna be very, very long, and you've been here for a while. Thank you. Chapter 7. Closing thoughts. I don't want anyone's takeaway to be that NUS is a bad school and Minerva is a good school. I'm just here to tell you that NUS is a bad school for me and Minerva is a great school for me, and the opposite would probably be true for some people. And that's okay. Something I also want to get out there is that I don't and will never deny the fact that this opportunity is afforded to me by my background, and I am extremely lucky to be of such a background. But I also cannot downplay the bravery that my younger self displayed in making such a daring decision. When I was explaining to my senior why I was leaving NUS, she told me something that I'll never forget. You know, a lot of people feel that way, but you're the only person I know that actually did something about it. And I also want to share my story to inspire people to live a life that feels true to themselves. I also want to put out there that not all Minerva students are rich. And a lot of my classmates have really inspiring stories as to how they got here. Anyway, I plan to talk more about Minerva and stuff like that in future videos. And if that's something that interests you, subscribe! Whoa! Also, I'm a lot more active on Instagram and TikTok. It's the same handle. It's here. Ta-da! Whoa! Look at that amazing handle. It's a pun between my surname, a signature local drink of Singapore/Malaysia, and the PNG file format because I do digital art. Anyway, I guess that's it. Oh my god. Thanks for watching. You're a real one. This video is freaking long.